Joining us now, too, along with Ben, is Alan Diamonstein, former very powerful House of Delegates member. In fact,
the front runner for the lieutenant governor nomination in 2001, and he got upended by somebody. I can't remember who that was.
The guys are running for vice president. And Alan Diamonstein was now. When I first got to the Peninsula, and I was the editorial page editor for the Daily Press. So my first day on the job, and I met with the publisher, Digby Solomon, and I'm like, well, tell me who the power players are that I got to call. I just gone to Washington and met the congressional delegation, Whitman and I guess Forbes, Ridgel, whatever. And he gave me this number. He had an old dirty card he pulled out. He said, call this guy's name. It's Alan Diamonstein. He's the king of the Peninsula. Guy's been calling the shots since basically FDR was president. So, Alan, good to have you.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
And we did talk on the phone the second day of my job. I don't know if you remember, but I did call you up, and you were very gracious. You talked to me for about an hour and kind of gave me the whole lay of the land. So that was when Glenn Oder was still there and all that. So, Ben, I know you guys go way, way back. Why don't you tell a story about Alan Diamonstein?
Well, I actually met Alan Diamonstein in 2001 when he was running for lieutenant governor. And I was a young Democrat in Fairfax, and I think we actually put on the only debate that you all had that cycle. Is that right?
That is correct.
Because no one, remember, Mark Warner was unopposed, and so there was just no interest in that race, in the Attorney General's race that was going on. It was hard to get anyone to pay attention that it was happening, and so we offered to put one on in Fairfax County. And everyone was thrilled to participate because there were no other events going on, the debates in the state. So I think I actually moderated the one debate between Alan and Tim Kaine and Gerald Jones. So
that is true, and it was the only debate I think that Tim and I had. And fortunately for Virginia and the country, I lost that debate.
So then,
how surreal is this for you? I was like, because when Tim was running against you, I remember the knock. And we, Kathy Nielsen's here. She worked for Alan in Northern Virginia, and I remember being at the Fairfax Fair with you the weekend before that election.
Yes.
I actually was joking with Alan that weekend, and I remember that he had done a mail piece of the transportation problems in Northern Virginia. And if you remember, your mail piece was a horse and buggy. And I said, "Is this a real picture from your childhood, or is this just for the?" But Alan was, I think that he raised the most money in that race and was the favorite. And the knock on Tim Kaine at the start was, he was a councilman from 1/9 of the city of Richmond. He was mayor, but he was elected by the council. So he'd never gotten 1,000 votes in his life. And I don't think at the start of that anyone took him seriously. I think it was an Alan Diamonstein, Gerald Jones race that suddenly turned into a Tim Kaine race.
Well, Tim, if I remember correctly, we had a three-way race. And with Gerald being from the Tidewater area, it made it a very interesting challenge. But the one thing that I think, and this is really not hindsight, because I remember that during the time, Tim was very effective, very knowledgeable, very well prepared, and he came across very well to the audience. We split the state up a little bit when the race came on, but the best thing that ever happened to Virginia was that he won.
Yeah. Well, Alan, you carried, as I recall, you carried Northern Virginia in that race, even though you were from Tidewater.
Yes.
And but turnout in Northern Virginia was less than 1% of the voters, and that Tim got his margin by running up a huge turnout in the Richmond area. Am I remembering that right?
I haven't sat down really, and nobody's going to believe this, and thought about that in a long time. But yes, that is true. I was fortunate enough. I'd been around a while. I'd served in the legislature, and I was fortunate. People in Northern Virginia were very good to me, as were the people in the Tidewater area.
Right. And so how surreal is it to see someone like Tim, as talented as he was at the time, win that race? I think then he goes on to the general election, was the underdog in that race, won that. A lot of people didn't think that he even should be the gubernatorial candidate in 2005. They were trying to find other people because he was too liberal. He got the nomination, won that race, goes on to be governor, senator, now vice presidential candidate. How surreal is it for you to have run against the vice presidential candidate?
Well, it's interesting. Someone asked me the other day, and I said, I'm very proud. He's the only person that ever beat me, and so therefore he must be terrific. I think that Tim is extremely capable, and I'm not saying that because of his present occupation of running for vice president, but over the period of years that I've known him and have grown to know him even more and more, I recognize how very talented he is, and he was young enough and progressive enough to make a difference in life, and I think Virginia's made a good choice.
So, when you look at statewide races that are coming up next year, we have another lieutenant governor's contest. Yeah, how would you say voters can see a Tim Kaine? How do they differentiate that early on in someone's career? What were the things that you saw in him that you said, wow, he's going to be tough to beat during that race?
Well, first of all, I think if people look at Tim's background, the missionary part, the education part, the family part, they'll understand how much that individual has given to people he knew and people he didn't know. And his entire personality, his raison d'etre is to try to help others. And I don't mean for political purposes. He's a very sincerity and capability, I think, are the two best words for him. He's an outstanding individual.
Now, Alan, for our audience that is not from the Newport News area, what was the makeup of your district before it got redistricted? But what was the general makeup?
Which time you're talking about. But the district that I represented was primarily a very conservative, basic Republican district, but a district that appreciated ability. I'm not talking about myself, but generally, and the ability to make a difference in the position that you served. And as I stayed in the House, and that was 35 years, we got to know each other, and the partisan politics did not play a big part of it. They challenged me every 2 years. They challenged me every 2 years for 35 years, but it was a very nonpartisan district.
So what was different? I mean, when you were there, a lot of people tell me, I'm not from Virginia like you all are, but a lot of people tell me that, there was not the partisan rancor that you've got now, that it was more of a gentleman's discussion. You guys would work things out behind closed doors. You wouldn't be fighting it out in the media, and there wasn't the partisan rancor we have now, right?
Oh, absolutely. When I went to the legislature, it was it was almost like a private club.
Right.
And it was the Andy Byrd years. People like Tom Moss from Norfolk ran to get Norfolk out of the birdcage. I was the kind of politician that they really weren't familiar with and seeing. And what made you liberal or not liberal in those days was your feeling about race relations. And that's the classification. It wasn't your business votes. It wasn't. It was what you thought about education, education for everybody. And so, as times changed, so did education improve. So the openness of the legislature improved. The ability not to have closed sessions,
right,
but to bring the citizen into the process. We came part of the way, and as years went by, it was open more and more and more.
Right. So it's certainly a little bit tougher now. Al, there's 5 wards where, with all these candidates, Morrissey's going to come out on top. He wins those 5. He's mayor. First ballot, mail it in. Joe's got a following. I don't care how much money LeVar Stoney has. And what's he going to do? Dump $1 million in negative ads on him? I think it's going to backfire. That's just, look, I'm no dog in the hunt. I'm just saying that's just my analysis.
No, I'm not going to comment on that. I'm a very close friend of LeVar Stoney, and I've also served with Joe a long time. My understanding is the race will be a runoff between 2 individuals because of the way that they
well, you got to win. Here's the thing. It's interesting. In order to get elected on the first ballot, there's 9 wards. You have to win 5 of them outright, and then you're mayor. If nobody wins 5 outright, then the top 2 vote getters go to a runoff, and then wards don't matter. Then it's just whoever gets more votes wins. But there's 5 wards that favor Morrissey, because of his name ID and how he's worked in there and the reputation he's got. So if he wins those 5, it's over. He could lose the overall popular votes at Stoney, but still win on the first ballot if he can carry those 5 wards. He got all those other candidates in there. That's why I think he's going to be very, very tough to beat. We'll see what plays out. And, you know, money doesn't always buy love.
You're not going to get him to comment.
To help elect Hillary and Tim Kaine.
Let's talk about this year's race.
Let's talk about this year's. You think Hillary and Tim are going to win Virginia? How?
I do. I think that the people of Virginia care about issues, but they also care about ethics and honesty. And I think that Tim Kaine is going to be so well known to them. I think that he'll help carry the Commonwealth. But I think if you take a look at what our opposition has proposed, I don't think the people of Virginia fall for that stuff. I think they're more concerned with foreign affairs. I think they're concerned with business, and I don't think the rhetoric that's coming from Trump is going to be of interest to the people of the Commonwealth.
So some of his key issues, like stopping the free flow of immigrants, you don't think that illegal immigrants, you don't think that matters?
No, I don't. I just think that the people of Virginia care about these big issues, and I think as they look at the race, as they read what the people say, as they listen to what the opposition says, I think they're going to come down on the side of Hillary Clinton.
Okay, now Ben Tribbett says the fact that Hillary Clinton picked Tim Kaine is not going to matter. He says it'll have no impact on Virginia voters.
Tim Kaine will have no impact?
That's what Tribbett says.
I don't agree with that. I think that anybody who understands the process of selection by Hillary will understand that she picked someone whose honesty and ethics and ability is beyond reproach. And I think that the very fact that Tim will be speaking hard for her will make a difference to an awful lot of people.
Well, I mean, Delegate, the reason that we speculated that he won't add a lot of votes is not the excitement that he won't add. It's that Tim's always run ahead of everyone on his ticket. He's the most popular person on every ticket. It means that his votes don't always translate to other Democrats because there's a lot of Republicans that like Tim Kaine. And will Republicans that like Tim Kaine vote for Hillary Clinton because he's the vice president? I mean, they might vote for Tim Kaine for president when that comes around, but will they vote for Hillary Clinton with Tim Kaine as running mate? I just don't see how much that will add.
Well, but I think they will. I don't think people vote for or against the president because of who the vice president is, as we all know. But I think that this race is going to be so issue-oriented, and people are going to be so concerned with how we're looked at, what happens to our strength, what happens to our military, that in the final moments of the election, they're going to say to themselves, if an example of Hillary's intellect and ability to choose is Tim Kaine, she made a great choice, and she'll make other great choices.
Yeah. Well, do you think that this will have any impact on the 2017 race? The 2017 race for governor. Do you think that this selection will have any impact on that, given that Tim Kaine's successor would be elected the same day as the governor's election?
I don't necessarily think. I think that the overall composure of the electorate at that time will help. I think when Hillary and Tim win, I do think it'll make a difference, and I think it'll help the overall ticket.
Right. You think it'll just create a sense of momentum for all the Democrats?
All right, we want to thank Alan Diamonstein for being with us.
It's my
Alan,
pleasure.
first
Nice
person
seeing you.
I was told to call when I got to the peninsula.
Thank you, Alan.
And I want to say that Alan returned my call same day and talked to me for an hour, told me everything that was going on. And I remember him saying, Glenn Oder is really not a bad guy. I remember you saying that.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We'll see you. We'll be right back.